Okay, welcome. This is the Tuesday, September 6th, regular meeting of the North Shore Board of Commissioners. And our first order of business will be roll call.
Good evening. Commissioner Admin is not available this evening. Commissioner Pratt,
Present.
Commissioner Byers, Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Woolam. Here. Chief Cowan. Legal Counsel Matt Paxton,
Here.
and I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
All right, thank you, Amy. Item number 2 on our agenda is public comments. Amy, do we have any submitted public comments?
I did not receive any advance requests for public comment, but if anyone would like to, I see one hand raised. So, Mr. Marin, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you'll have 3 minutes to make your comments.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to comment to the Board of Fire Commissioners. My name is David Marin. I live in the city of Kenmore, and I'd like to comment on your policy 1400 discussion that's on tonight's agenda. So set for tonight's agenda is a discussion to revise policy 1400. The primary policy change is to eliminate the policy intent statement guiding the board to be transparent and inclusive, and to eliminate the non-voting advisory and temporary board positions. As members of this board, you no doubt recall this policy was revised just last year to include the items you now wish to delete. The 2021 policy revisions passed by unanimous vote. 3 of you voted for this policy change. Commissioner Woolam benefited from this policy as a temporary board member. The policy was revised because members of the public and the board and members of both Lake Forest Park and Kenmore City Council criticized the North Shore Board of Fire Commissioners for a lack of transparency and poor communications with the city councils and the public. I believe adoption of this policy amendment was a wise action, and it improves the transparency and board communications. Retaining the current policy is more important than ever today because the board has no representative from the Lake Forest Park community, and the board appears to be heavily weighted to the interests of the firefighters. 3 board members are active firefighters and IAFF union members. A 4th board member is married to a shoreline fire chief. There are very important issues before the North Shore Board of Fire Commissioners, including contract cost controls, service level standards, regional cooperation, and more. I urge you to retain the existing policy. During development of the 1400 policy revisions, an option was included to allow each city to appoint a citizen representative to serve as the city's non-voting advisory member. The intent was to have this person bring city-related issues to the board and report back regularly to the city council regarding fire department operations. This option provided a direct connection without an undue burden to individual city council members. If the city council members now feel that they do not have time to attend board meetings, I recommend adding back the citizen representative option. I believe that any current commissioner whose position is up for election next year should recuse themselves from voting to eliminate the temporary board position. Limiting this position would provide a board member with an undue advantage during the election process. The temporary position was intended to provide candidates who qualified for the general election the opportunity to participate in board operations, allowing each candidate to learn about the fire department operations and the role of fire commissioners. The temporary board position also prepared a successful candidate to promptly and effectively assume the responsibilities of fire commissioner. The existing policy sections you will be discussing tonight are sound, effective, and promote public trust in board operations. Should the board walk away from the current policy, it can only be seen as an attempt to shield board members from public scrutiny, reduce transparency, and limit communications with the public and our partner city leaders. I urge you to retain the language of policy 1400 and prove to the public that you indeed meet the high ideals.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Marin.
Yeah, sorry. Time was up at 3 minutes. But thank you, Mr. Marin, for your comments, and we'll take them into consideration. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Chair would accept a motion.
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Excellent,
I'll
thank you.
second.
Thank you, commissioners. It's been moved and seconded to accept the agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, item number 4, board discussion and possible action items. Item 4.1, a review of the station alerting system proposals. Chief Cowan? Zeb?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this over to Zeb. Ask him here to be able to answer any of the technical questions, and he's much more better versed on the proposals and all that, but I do want to thank him for the due diligence in working through what he found were gaps in the proposals and working with the company to actually whittle down the price quite a bit with keeping it specific to the alerting side of things. This proposal is actually quite a bit less than what I was expecting. So I'll turn it over to Zeb.
So the alerting system in this building was installed when the building was new, 2010, 2011, something like that. The vendor that installed it said that a lot of the components were actually quite a few years old when it was installed, and now we're 12 years down the road. We've already had a couple system failures. One of them was like the doorbell caused the computer. It's a computerized system, but the doorbell, somebody pressed the doorbell one time and the speaker sound was coming out continuously for minutes on end. It was a computer programming glitch that happened, and they said that it's just the old hardware starting to fail. So part of this proposal is replacing the components that control not replacing the speakers, but controlling the components that control the speakers, control the voice that comes out. There's a light you can kind of see up over here that's kind of hard to tell, but it lights up a specific color based on the unit that is dispatched. And so there's like red, blue, green, and yellow, as well as the dorm controls. So with a advanced alerting system, each bedroom has a control in it where they can mark what unit they are on. That way they only get woken up for that unit. Other units that get dispatched won't affect them. The reason this quote is more than just replacing a single component is because the system as a whole, there's a lot of relays, a lot of components that integrate into it. And the system, if you want to upgrade it to be the modern version, there's actually limitations on distance for cabling, which is ironic. So this current system is actually in the room right over here. That door is open. The bedrooms, the dorm rooms at the far end of the building exceed that limitation. So as part of installing this new hardware, a lot of the labor, you mentioned the labor was a little bit more, is because they have to pull wires to the new location, which is going to be the server room in the middle of the building. So that way it's in the middle of the building and feeds out from there to all areas of the building. Having it on this corner of the building, it's too far of a distance to reach the far end of the building. That makes sense. So that's why there's more labor involved is rerouting the wires or splicing wires to make that work. So there's multiple pieces. I won't get into what all of them is, but again, it's the control unit that controls the speakers, the lights, as well as dorm lights in the bathrooms that light up red for nighttime so that you don't blind somebody by getting too bright when it's in the middle of the night. Like it's the alerting system package. Any questions on it?
So if we approve this tonight, how soon are they already working on it?
They are not working on it yet. They're waiting for an approval on that. They said a lot of the components are quite a few months out, so probably 6 months out for the system to be installed.
One thing I didn't ask, was there a credit on 57 if we do both of them at the same time?
I didn't even get to that part.
This is just 51,
Just 51.
so we still have outstanding for 57.
Right. It's not as critical at 57, but it's got some older components in it as well.
That was a follow-up question. Was 57 put in at the same time or the same type of issues, or is it not quite as urgent?
57 doesn't really have an alerting system like this at all. They don't have any special lights. They don't have any special bedroom controls. It's really just speakers in the ceiling. And when a signal comes in from the dispatch center, the 911 center, it comes out over all speakers. That's pretty much it.
It's not as ergonomic,
Yeah.
but it's not as apt to fail at this point.
Right.
That's what I mean is maybe not quite as critical. Certainly something that we should have on our radar though, for a project, whether we do it now, or in the near future.
So traditionally, there's been no differentiation between engine 157 and the medic unit that runs out there.
There is one relay for the bedrooms as to which speaker it comes out, but in terms of like the red lights that come on at night, so you don't. Where somebody gets woken up with a white light, and that was
Oh,
the
well,
stress.
it's the ergonomic, yeah.
Ergonomic sleep stress, that building does not have any of those. So with the 2 units, it wasn't a big deal, because the relay controls 2 bedrooms. But if you were to add the 3rd unit, which we have the 8 car there now, which is only a daytime 8 car.
Right.
But if that 8 car ever does go full time, we do not have the ability to have 3 different settings. There's just the one.
Well, we should keep that on. Look at it next year, put it on agenda for next year.
So one of the things that we were asking, and we don't have the answers whether or not there'd be a credit, but it's certainly something that I think from an ergonomic standpoint, it's probably something that we need to look at because, as I was talking about, there's a big stress on people, at 3 o'clock in the morning. The claw marks on the ceiling, of being woke up, it does take a toll on the firefighters.
Thank you, Zeb. Any other questions from commissioners?
Thank you.
Okay. We need a motion to move forward with,
So if you're feeling comfortable now with the details that have been provided, like to take action, just because it's still 6 months out, but it'd be great to start this ball rolling.
all right, so Chair would accept the motion to move ahead with J-Mark as the provider for a new location system at Station 51.
I'd like to make a motion to J-Mark. To move forward with the new system in 51. I'm not sure if I got all the words right, but
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to move forward with upgrading the location system at Station 51. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? No discussion. We'll take a vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
I
Aye.
And aye. Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you. You can have it.
I do have questions, Zeb. We had, how's our equipment going for our computer room here? How's that going?
The HVAC.
HVAC?
Yeah.
For the HVAC system.
Yes.
The outside component, the condenser that goes on the outside is available in a couple weeks. The inside component is a few months out.
Okay. So we're
Supply issues.
hanging in there, though. Okay.
We made it through some.
All our other components that we need in there, where are we at on that?
The servers are in, they're installed and running. The network switches, 2 of them just arrived today. Those are ones we ordered back in October. They just arrived. 2 of them arrived today. They're supposed to be pre-arriving today, and I have tracking of what happened with the 3rd one. They didn't get lost in shipping, but then that would be the last of the main core components that we ordered last year or earlier this year. We'll get those installed and get running probably by the end of.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, item 4.2, approval of revised policy 1410. And just to remind commissioners and the public, policy 1410 reflects our parliamentary procedure, and we had a few recommended changes that came out of our class that we took this spring. Commissioner Admin and Commissioner Warren worked on revising this policy. There was an initial reading, I believe, in June or July. There were some basic revisions just in formatting, not in substance, prior to this meeting. So the chair would accept a motion to accept policy 1410 as presented.
I'll make that motion that we accept 1410 as it's been amended or changed.
and I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just in looking at it, on the section that says vote, it says that the vote on all matters shall be made in person and shall be oral. And I was wondering if that like needed some language in there for the ability to do it via Zoom.
My understanding is that Zoom is considered to be. open person. You're here, you're not present in this space, but you're present at the meeting.
Right.
Yeah, can't vote remotely or.
I asked the same question.
Okay, all right. That was my only
Good question.
discussion.
Yep. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of revised policy 1410, please say aye.
Aye.
And aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Discussion on policy 1400 changes. This is the policy that describes who the sitting members of the board are and reflect the changes in our advisory members, both candidates who made the qualify for the general election and our city council advisory members. This was advocated and revised by Commissioner Admin. So we'll take this time to discuss the changes. This will be our first reading, and then at our next meeting in October, we can vote on it. Unfortunately, Commissioner Adams not here to respond, but questions, comments, discussion?
I think for me, I don't see the specific necessity to have someone that's running for election be in those meetings. I think I was on all the meetings previous to that anyway. It did give me like a slight voice, but I also, it's understood that that doesn't have any effect on the board, so I think still the elected officials, for lack of a better word, or running for election should attend, as everyone should, but I don't know that they need a separate voice aside from that, because they can have their opinion in public discussion.
I would note that the policy change was implemented to bring the city council members in and give them a direct voice onto the commission. There was some concern on their part that they weren't being included, they were being excluded, that we were making decisions behind closed doors. In reaching out to them, I know that Commissioner Admin has touched base with both Lake Forest Park and Kenmore. Those representatives have not been present at our meeting since we signed the contract for service with Shoreline. And that was the main intent, was to make sure that they clearly understood exactly what was happening. And so they haven't been in attendance since the contract was signed. And when contacted, they said that they had no interest or need to be in attendance, that they trusted the decision-making of the current board. So just like to make that note. Also to note that any candidate is welcome to attend our meetings and are encouraged to attend our meetings. And any concerned citizen is welcome and encouraged to attend our meetings. So, Commissioner Webster, anything to?
No, I think it's all about transparency, and I believe that we, if there's any issues, we make sure that we get the city councils involved. We haven't, I don't have any complaint that I believe that we've always been able to let them know what's going on. And as far as I can see, I think this looks pretty good.
Commissioner Webster, I think that's a good point in that, should the need arise in our decision-making to include members of the city councils, we will certainly reach out to them and invite them to attend our meetings and have open lines of communication
For specific items that, yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, So that's our initial reading, and we will revisit this and be voting on it at our next meeting.
One other item on. At the end of it is the section 7.8.3 for meetings with virtual attendance, online Zoom enabled with chat. The function shall only be turned on while the board is in public session.
Correct.
That's one of our changes. I want to be real clear with the public about that. So we're because of some issues that came up during previous meetings. So that is one of our changes.
That,
And I want to be real open about that.
yeah, important to note too, that policy change, that portion came about from the suggestions from our parliamentary expert that we had our meeting with. Okay. With no further discussion on the proposed changes to policy 1400, we'll move on to item 4.4, discussion on policy 6200. And if I recall, Chief, you were going to reach out to Matt Paxton and make some suggestions or recommendations.
I do have some input from Mr. Paxton. I asked or delegated to Don Killian and Bofer Sahara to work looking at the existing policies of both Legacy North Shore and Shoreline and figuring out what should be the policy, what is a good, is there good things in both that we can combine to make a new one or just go with Shoreline. Shoreline has some more details to it that Mr. Paxton has alluded to. That's probably a good thing. And it's updated already. But I also want to make sure that if there's good nuggets that was in the Legacy North Shore policy, that we include those too. But my goal is to have one policy that's identical in both departments so that we're following one policy. So that there isn't any kind of confusion out there. I have not gotten the red line report back yet. When I do, or the policy, when I do, I was going to give it to Mr. Paxton review and you guys as well in draft form, and then we can discuss it and hopefully adopt it.
So policy 6200 is what policy?
So policy 6200 addresses the limit that the administration is allowed to, the dollar amount that the administration is allowed to spend without going to without board consent. Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable and
Right.
transparent, and that we're transparent.
Right, that's good. So I wanted to sort of public.
Yeah.
that's what we're talking
I'm sorry, I probably should mention.
Thank you.
Secretary Oakley.
I just want to announce that Commissioner Admin has joined the meeting.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner Admin.
And he's returning from a call.
Okay.
Mr. Paxton, anything to add to this discussion?
No, as the chief mentioned, we've had discussions. I think there's going to be a lot more work to do on those, but hopefully it'll be staff handling that.
And I would mention too, that having Dawn on there is good because she has a good, obviously a very good perspective from what has worked well here in the past. So again, maybe adding things together, we can end up with a better product for both.
All right. Thanks, Chief. Okay, moving on. Item 4.5, discussion of membership in the WSCA. Commissioner Warren.
So, in my research, what I discovered is we are not members of the Washington State Fire Commissioners Association, and it is, I don't know the exact amount, but somewhere about $3,500. We are members of King County Fire Commissioners, and that has been paid. And I wasn't able to discover who were members of the National Association, but that entrance fee would be like a $250 membership fee. So that's where we're at. I also wanted to let you know that I am on the nomination committee for the King County Fire Commissioners Association for the next board. So I am staying active in that. But that's sort of where we are. The one I wanted to make sure we had paid up was the King County, because I would like to take a class there in October. So we're that, so I should be able to go ahead and register for that one fine.
as I understood from Don Killian's comments at our last meeting, we haven't been part of the state council for some time, and that was a decision by previous chief to end our membership there.
Correct.
Do you see a direct benefit for us, advantages to being part of that organization?
Well, in my mind, if I want to take a class, or if anyone wants to take a class, it may be $50 to $100 more to take the class. But that still doesn't make up for the fee that they're charging us up front. So I think if someone would want to take a class with them, we could do that. And pay the extra $50 or $100 for the class. I don't know that we need to be part of the association. It would be nice in my mind, but it's also very costly. So I don't know that it's worth the cost. I think if there's classes we want to take in that, we just pay the extra fee for now.
Other comments or questions?
I agree with Commissioner Rowland on that.
Yeah, is that what all the benefit would be, is just to get a better rate on?
Yeah, you get better rates. I'm sure that there are other things involved, but it wasn't anything that I could specifically narrow down and say this would be a huge benefit to us. Most of what I'm learning is that it's the King County that puts on the classes that I am most interested in taking. And that seem to relate a little bit better to where we're at instead of the state.
All right, thanks for your work on that. Other comments or questions for Commissioner Wallen? Chief?
I was just gonna add two things. I think it is, I agree. I think it's pretty expensive. The two other things that I would mention is that going to the conference, part of that money helps pay for the conference, the annual conference, and for lobbying activities, on behalf of all the commissioners. So it's more of a holistic or global,
I think.
but again, I think it's fairly expensive, especially for the amount at this point that you're gonna get in received.
And I think if all the commissioners were interested in doing the classes and participating in
Right,
Washington State.
or the conference, yeah.
Right, then it would be worth it.
Right. I would agree.
Yeah.
And who knows, but that might change.
Right.
Okay. Moving on, item 4.6. An update from our subcommittee on administrative activities not covered under the ILA.
That would be me, and I've done a little bit of work on it, but what I'm finding is that I'm going back through our 2021 budget, 2022 budget, and looking at the items, and so I'm actually about halfway through my research of what we need to really look at. And I still have one item that I need to get with the chief about. And so I am working on it. And I think the important thing is we keep this item on here. And as we go through making our budget, making the overall budget, these items will clarify themselves as we go along. There's just a couple small items that are going to come up. And so as long as we keep it online and keep it visible, we'll make sure that we won't miss it. So
That was, Commissioner, that was my impression too, is that going through the budget process will help to reveal anything that we're missing.
Exactly.
And what I don't want to do is have this fall off our agenda and get blindsided by something.
Right.
So.
And I completely agree that this will all kind of filter out, because we do have to develop a North Shore budget as well, as opposed to the bigger one, the shoreline, for these activities and some of the things that, from a legal standpoint, being able to, well, for example, we just got a bill from Neil Blindheim, the consultant for doing the fire benefit charge. And that's one of those bills that will remain as a North Shore expense to allow you, because you have the legal authority to implement the fire benefit charge here. So I think a lot of this will filter out through this budget process.
All right. Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, Chief. Okay. Item number 5, board resolutions. We do have a resolution. Commissioner Admin was correct. It wasn't official policy, but just a resolution that established that we have 2 meetings a month. And so, legal counsel, Mr. Paxton, has kindly drawn up a resolution establishing that we transition from 2 scheduled meetings a month to 1 scheduled meeting a month on the first Tuesday. Mr. Admin, Commissioner Admin?
Yeah, I don't have a question on this particular agenda item. So before you conclude the meeting, I just have a question about some prior items I missed.
Sure. Why don't we address those during commissioner reports? Does that sound good?
Yeah, because he just blanked out.
Sure.
Excellent. Okay, Mr. Paxton, anything to add? Did I accurately summarize our resolution here?
Yes, you did. You have the discretion under state law and your own policies to meet once per month. And that this resolution would have that effect.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so the chair would accept a motion to implement this resolution. I'm sorry, Amy, does the resolution, what's the official number?
2022-02.
2002
No, 2022.
22-2.
I'll make the motion that we proceed with the and accept the resolution 2022-2. All right, and that's changing to our meetings to 1 time a month on the first Tuesday of the month.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And aye.
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. It's unanimous. All right, so our next meeting will be first Tuesday in October. Amy, do you have that?
October 4th.
October 4th. All right. All right, moving on. Item number 6, consent agenda.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And aye. Commissioner Abbott.
He gave the thumbs up because I don't know if it's coming through.
All right, it is unanimous.
All right.
Okay. Uh,
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay, item number 7, reports. First one, 7.1, fire chief's report.
I have a few things to add, but first, was there any questions about my activity report?
Can you comment please on the status of the transport program and the status of how things going with aid 157?
Sure. I don't know of any problems, I guess, so they're either fixing them, or there hasn't been any problems or concerns that have come up to my level or my attention. They seems to be working pretty well. The modifications and things that we need to clean up is specifically what rigs are gonna go to what hospitals. And there was a couple other cleanup things that we were gonna have to do anyway. But that was one of the bigger sticking points, was to make sure that we were keeping rigs and being responsible of like how far they were having to travel time wise, for transports. And so we brought that up in LMC, and we've talked about it quite a few times, Labor Management Committee. And with the union, and should have a revised policy out here hopefully this week. Basically identifying exactly what it is, so all of the staff know, what the expectations are.
Question for you on the hospital wait times. How are we doing there? Has it gotten worse, better, the same?
I don't know how it's doing down south, but it's still horrible. I've got good news. It's actually gotten a lot better. I don't know about, Doug's on, he might have a perspective over like the last 5 days or so, or a week, but I know that for a couple of weeks there, it was going way down. And it was, at one point, I want to say that the average wait time was, we had quite a few that were under 20 minutes, which was amazing. But it could be a fluke. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop or hit the camera or whatever, but I think it's been pretty good lately. I don't know about the last 5 or 6 days, but I know that for a week or two there, we were doing a whole lot better. So that's been really good. I don't know, it's still terrible down. Sorry. I don't know. Have you experienced? You guys don't transport though either, so.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Oh,
Kirkland Transports,
Okay.
primarily.
yeah, Evergreen. right there.
Evergreen, and it's very close, right? And then also to Overlake. There have been some issues, but in the last few weeks, I'd say that it's improved.
Mhm.
And so that's encouraging, right? Harbor Views off of its BLS divert, so that's good news.
That is really good news. What was really interesting about that is I was at a meeting with King County. And what was funny, it was just made no sense to me, was that when Harborview went off and they did the BLS divert, it did not have the impacts, the ripple effect to the other hospitals. I was expecting, the wait times are just gonna go through the roof. It went the other direction. I don't understand
Where'd they go?
at all. It is so counterintuitive. I just don't understand it. But I will say one of the things, I should have clarified. We Legacy Shoreline transports to 2 hospitals under normal conditions. You can go to any hospital if there's a need, but we predominantly transport to only 2 hospitals, and that's Northwest and Swedish Adventist. And here it's Evergreen. And so we're trying to figure out what that blend looks like. The Shoreline residents hardly ever go to Evergreen. And so what we're trying to make sure is that we're trying to keep an eye on that, and that we don't have units in Shoreline transporting Evergreen on a very often. It's about an average of 1 transport a month. Out of like last month, we did 177 transports. So, it's a very, very, very low percentage. It might even, and we're not going to allow, 8164 to transport to Evergreen, again, under normal circumstances. So we're going to be monitoring that very closely, because we're very cognizant of making sure that we're making good decisions. Both the biggest thing is making sure that we're treating the patient correctly and efficiently, and getting them to the hospital and so forth. And getting those rigs back in service is part of that, but we want to make sure that we're, prioritizing the impacts on the patient. And so we don't believe that there's going to be a big impact of adding Evergreen to a couple of the units at 63 and 65, but we're going to monitor that very closely and see and make sure that it's not having a negative effect, or a big negative effect.
Can I ask a question on this?
Sure, Commissioner Admin?
Sure. So someone brought a question to me, and the question was just about what's the normal expected staffing of aid 157? Is it just when there's overtime available? Because I guess there's been a couple instances where it was partly staffed, and then another rig was going to require mandatory staffing. So because they weren't able to fully staff aid 157, they diverted that staffing to the other rigs. I just wasn't sure if we had established anything that was an algorithm that says how that works.
There is a staffing algorithm that they follow as far as the priority. Aid 157 has been almost, or a vast majority of it has been overtime to staff it. There's been a couple of times where we've had regular on duty, staff, that's been available, but we will not mandatory for aid 157. So if we get to that trigger point, that's when we have to brown it out, which has happened a handful of times. But it's been staffed up quite a bit more than, I don't know the exact numbers. It's been staffed up more than it's than I was, it hasn't been browned out as much as I was fearing that it was going to have to be. So it's better. And again, we're still low on staffing with, when the 10 that we have in the academy come out, that'll help with our overall staffing levels too, and hopefully get more regular staffing on it and not have to pay overtime to staff it. But we won't mandatory for aid 157.
Commissioner Byers, you,
That was actually real close to my question. I was wondering if we had any issue staffing it and if we had to shut it down at all after it's been running the whole time.
We have had to shut it, to brown it out,
Mhm.
shut down. Yeah, we haven't staffed it up. I don't know where we're at exactly right now. But it's been a handful of times, so.
any other specific questions on the chief's report? Okay, Chief Cowan, you had
So
something to add?
I do have a few things. Well, I'll start with because it's a good segue. We had an ACAR, it was completely accidental, and I don't think it was really even avoidable. Well, accidents are always avoidable. The ACAR at 57, speaking of aid 157, was trying to go through the back bay and was hitting the door for the front to come up. It was bringing the door down on the back as they were coming through. Hit the back of the top of the ACAR. Didn't really damage the ACAR, but did damage a couple of the panels in the door, which it happens. It's it's not super expensive. It's more troublesome than it is there than it usually is, only because supply issues. April next year.
Oh,
So I just wanted to let you know that this is so that they will not have a drive-through bay until April of next year. We could look at replacing the entire door now, but then it won't match, and it's $17,000 to replace the whole door.
Chief,
So-
are there not sensors on that door that prevent that from happening?
There should be sensors on the door to prevent that, but there isn't. The way it was built, it wasn't required at the time, so it has a trigger sensor for impact or pressure or whatever. And it did trigger and it was operating, but it didn't trigger fast enough. I mean, even the ACAR wasn't going very fast, but just that enough. It bent to the panels on the door. So we are looking at retrofitting. Steve Carter, our facilities guy, is looking at retro 57 or 51 is the same way. Well, actually, yeah, in the back, he's looking at retrofitting all of them. So
With
yeah.
the sensors retrofitting that we're talking about?
yes, and one of the things that we found too is to make sure that it can't shoot underneath rigs. It needs to be high enough up that it'll hit the body, of the vehicles, and because if it misses the wheels and shoots underneath, then it still could have happened. So,
Is the building secure in the meantime? Is it?
yeah, it's down. It's secured. It's not functional.
so is there, does this give us reason to order a few more panels just in case?
Excellent point. And we need 2. I ordered 4.
Okay, because that's a long time out
Yeah.
to me.
I thought so too.
And I understand it's not a huge thing, but it's just kind of a pain, so.
Well, we don't ever want any accidents, especially like this, but this one, I reviewed the accident report and it was, they were doing what they thought was supposed to be right, and everything, just, it was one of those things that they just weren't as familiar with the station as they probably could have been,
Okay.
but it was, it is one of those things. So we're gonna order 2 extra panels and we're gonna store them someplace, just in case.
Sounds like a good plan.
I thought so too. They're not super expensive. It's just more of a hassle because we don't have the drive-through doors
Right.
or drive-through bay.
Yeah.
Drive-through door. Don't have drive-through doors either. So, any questions on that? So the other one, I wanted to bring this up. I bounced this off of Commissioner Pratt. We're reviewing the valuation of this station, and it came back at over $17 million. And so the insurance premium on 17 million is around 27,000. I'm just giving you some round numbers. That's for full replacement value, this is right up your alley. And so I asked the question of like, well, what if we didn't insure it for 17 million? If we insured it for like 14 million? Because the chances of having to replace this entire building are very, very remote. It would take the 9.4 earthquake, or something like that. And for me, I was like, okay, if we have the big earthquake, and we had to replace the entire structure, we would also have FEMA in here, providing financial assistance as well. So I wanted to get a feel for what kind of savings would we get if we decrease the value a little bit. We asked the insurance company, it came back at about $5,000 for 14 million. They call it, they have a term for it, but it $5,000 in the whole scheme of things is not a huge amount of money, but it's still $5,000. And I felt like that was a fairly big enough percentage of 27,000 to warrant having a little bit of discussion about this with y'all. We can go at 100% of the value. I'm totally fine with that. It's the safest way to go. But I also, we could save $5,000. And so I wanted to bring that up, see if you had any feelings about this one way or another. I need to make a decision here within the next week. We can go with the 100% of the value, or we can look at a more of a value approach.
What does Shoreline currently do with their facilities?
We have taken an approach of decreasing the value a little bit and taking more of a value approach. We did that a few years ago, but I believe actually that they've crept back up to 100% in the last few years, and I need to review those as well. So, this one is the most valuable. I mean, it's the biggest and most valuable, station in our organization. So it popped out a little bit more, when I was like, oh, wow, so you're valuing it. There's like 17. It might have been closer to 18, when it was done, but it's also 32,000 square feet. So,
Commissioner Webster, do you have thoughts on this?
My businesses, my buildings, because we're in a strict earthquake zone, I continue at 100%. Because FEMA, after dealing with things in New Orleans, after that, FEMA came in, but it took 2 years to get money. In the meantime, you could get your money out of the insurance company and get your buildings back up. So at this time, I would prefer that we stay at 100%. That's my feelings.
That's mine too, but I tend to be a little more conservative insurance wise.
I am totally fine staying at 100%.
Okay.
I am. I felt like the $5,000 savings, it was at least worth having a discussion.
And given the cautiousness of two other commissioners, I'm inclined to probably follow suit. I'm a little ambivalent one way or the other.
Yeah, I could go either way on this. So, okay, that's good enough for me. And then the last thing I was going to add, and we started to talk about it a little bit with the budget process, is there's a schedule for the overall big budget, but we also need to look at the schedule. At some point we need to sit down and do the North Shore specific budget as well. Sometime in October, let us get some of the bigger stuff going, here in September. And then I was gonna ask if, because we have another meeting on October 4th, we could set the date to have a special meeting at that October 4th meeting. Or would you like me to throw out some dates? Or I can email them to you all, for consideration, or how would you like to go about that?
But Chief, why don't you email the potential dates out, and then we can assess and we'll make that decision at the October.
That sounds good. 4th meeting. Okay, I will do that. Shoot out some dates then.
Amy?
That's the question that I remember from last year. We have to provide so many days advance notice to the public when there'll be a budget
Review.
meeting.
It's a public hearing, so
Yeah.
So I just don't know how that lines up.
right. Though that is in the schedule. You need to have a public hearing for the fire benefit charge and for the budget. And it can be in the same day, same meeting. But you do have to have, a public hearing for each of those different measures.
And do you know how many days in advance we have to notify the public? Dawn, last year we put ads in the paper.
Oh, you put ads in the paper? Wow, okay, I wanna say it's 30, the thing that pops out at me is I wanna say 30 days,
Yeah, I don't remember.
so, I didn't. We just usually post it on our website and. Okay, but how about I confirm those dates, and then if you wanna advertise.
Mr. Paxton, do you know the lead time for our public hearings that we have to publish?
Not off the top of my head. I can work with the chief on that.
Thank you. Evan, do you happen to know? Have you been through this process a few times?
I don't know the exact deadlines, no.
All right.
Look over some really old. Do you typically have people attend your public
The
hearings?
last couple of years we did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right.
But I think
Just wanna
that was
be
maybe,
prepared.
that was maybe a function of what's
Stuff
going
was
on.
going on. Right.
And I can look at last year's.
Yeah,
what-
I have it in my office too. I can't remember. Yeah, if you could send me whatever you guys, in the advertisement, that might be nice too, to see what that looks like.
Yeah, Dawn.
Or I can ask Dawn. Okay.
I think it was, we tried to put it in the newspaper, but then there's also some local newsletters that
Okay.
she also
Okay.
contacted.
Probably connect to the cities that we serve, and they have their own communications people that put that kind of thing.
I think that's what we did last year, actually, is we reached out to the cities. They helped
Okay.
publish it for us. Yeah.
So, and the final piece to this, to the budget part of it is I put in my activity report. Lake Forest Park and Kenmore are not in yet for the area reports, but the east side of Shoreline is, which is, I'm guessing would be very similar to Lake Forest Park. And AV is going up on the east side of Shoreline by 22.6%. It's going up in Lake City, and Lake City is interesting. They looked at it, and it goes out quite a ways north. It comes all the way almost to Kenmore. It looks like the way that they've zoned it for. This is just the assessor's office, what they deem Lake City, and that was going up by 25.6%. So, I would say that we will fairly safely say that it'll be over 20%. Commercial and Shoreline is going up by 9.75, which is actually that's pretty high for commercial, considering what we just went through with some of the economic challenges and all that. So I would expect some fairly high AV growth going in, which is good because we also have pretty significant labor increases that we're facing as well. So I just want to give you guys, a heads up on where we're looking. As soon as I get those area reports, I'll let you know. This is not the preliminary levy worksheet. This is the King County Assessor's area reports. It's a very gross preliminary look at what AV is doing.
Will that one really affect our revenue except for new construction rate, and was the 1% limit increase?
Well, yes, but you could balance that because we're not assessing the dollar,
Right.
Per thousand.
You wanted to come up to $1, we have to do a bit.
I would have to look at your historical highest value, which is actually with the time that you had the fire benefit charge in place. I would bet that we would, yeah, you're probably right. I think we would need a little lift, to increase it.
So it's like probably the primary effect is just gonna be our dollar equivalency is gonna be lower.
The property tax levy is gonna go down quite a bit, and we'll have to make up, well, this will be something that we'll be discussing as part of the budget process, where we want the fire benefit charge to be, as far as overall revenues.
Okay, anything else, chief?
No, that'll do. Thank you.
Okay, all right. 7.2 commission reports. Commissioner Admin, you had some questions or comments?
Yeah, just because I missed the beginning portion of the meeting, I wasn't sure if there was any action taken on those policies, if they were voted on, or what happened with that.
Yeah, so second reading of policy 1410 was agreed to and passed unanimously. And then we did the initial reading of policy 1400. And just had a brief discussion, and I would say that we're all in agreement that it was appropriate and timely. We did have some public comments that expressed concern with the decision that we might be making. But I think that it's appropriate, and all other commissioners did as well. So if you'd like to speak out on it, take this time.
No, I just thought that that there's a couple different changes in that policy that were warranted. One was, how it talked about a vote, that really needed to be its own separate portion of the policy as opposed to a sub point of a separate section of that policy.
Yeah.
And then the other part was, I thought that our advisory board members had kind of served the utility for the time, and it wasn't something we needed to retain. So, yeah. And I checked in with our elected officials at certain roles, and they didn't have any concerns about it.
Could you just take this time and comment on your discussions with the officials from Lake Forest Park and Kenmore City Council that you had?
Sure, I just told them that, we noticed that they have not been in attendance recently at any of our meetings, and that, primarily the value that we've seen in that was to engage with them when we were going through this process of considering some kind of regionalization option, and that we were considering removing that advisory role from the board, and asked if they had any concerns about it, and they did not have any concerns about it. They thought it was fine.
Great, thank you. All right. Any other commissioner reports? All right, legal counsel?
Nothing to report today.
Thank you. All right, upcoming board agenda items. We have our standard items plus the ongoing updates from our subcommittee on administrative activities not covered. Further discussion on policy 6200. Chief, do you anticipate having some?
Yes,
Okay, we'll put it on there. If we need to change it, we can.
let's put it on there, and I hope that we can have something for you.
Okay, and then approval of our revised policy 1400. Anything else? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I should have taken that time. Let's finish up with this upcoming board agendas, and then we'll take a few minutes.
Setting a date, a special meeting date for budget review.
Special meeting date for budget review. Good. All right, okay. Before we adjourn, Union President Doug Lozier is here. Mr. Lozier, did you want to address the board, make any comments?
I'm just really attending today. Kind of wanted to hear what you guys were talking about and see if I can help at all. You did have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we've come to the end of our agenda, and if there's no objection, we will adjourn.
Thank you. So I